Hello everybody, this is Cheri at djsundry.blogspot.com and welcome to another edition of Terrific Tag Tuesday Making Christmas Tags. Now I am going to tell you I'm so excited about the way that this tag turned out, and as you can see it took a lot of stuff, but none of this was stuff that I purchased. Everything that I have is stuff that was in my stash. So after this video I encourage you, go through your stash, see what you have. Can you recreate this tag or something similar? So I will also tell you that this tag took a little bit longer than I had anticipated. In fact, it took quite a bit longer than I had anticipated, but the results are so worth it and I am super excited to share. So let's just dig in and see what we used. Now, the one thing that I grabbed from my stash is this jar. Now in this jar I have all sorts of fibers and threads, and even there's some baker's twine in here, and I knew that there was quite a bit of white stuff in here. Notice there was quite a bit of white stuff because I used quite a bit of it up on this tag, but I pulled that out of my stash. And then I also used the Joys of the Season cartridge, which I have already used once in this series, but it had the perfect tag for just that I wanted to do today. I pulled some ribbon out of my stash and I actually finished off a roll that was very similar to this. This one is an Offray ribbon that I've had for a really long time, and I finished off the roll that was a partial roll and started this new roll. So again, using up that stash. This also is some ribbon that I've had for a really long time, and it looks really pink in there, and it is fairly pink, but you'll see in the finished product that it's really not as bright because it's a sheer ribbon. It's like an organza ribbon. Again, this is stuff that I've had in my stash for quite some time. I was even able to pull some foam tape out of my stash. Now, I will probably end up using more foam tape this year than this, so I did have to purchase some more, but for today's project I was able to pull it out of my stash. I have this Close to My Heart shimmer trim that I've had for quite a while. Again, I don't know if it's still available or not because I haven't looked at the Close to My Heart stuff for a while, but this is a tape, a shimmer trim tape, and we used that. And then I pulled some Distress Glitter Clear Rock Candy, and this is a really important piece of today's project. And then I had some sequins. These are some clear ones. I had some gold ones. Off to the side I have some pink ones set aside. And then I had this clear craft transparent paper, and I just used a partial sheet of this, and I cut it into 2-inch squares. And then daisy white card for the back. And then for the front, I used this paper. Now this is last year's paper packet that was one of the non-traditional colors from Michaels, and it is just gorgeous. I did journals for people out of this, journal covers out of this last year. And so I pulled a piece of this, and actually I pulled a piece and I pulled a scrap out of it so that I could make the front. So let's set that aside and we will start our tag. So the first thing that I did is I cut out tags using the Joys of the Season, just like I did on the other one. I cut it at about 4 inches. Now the one that I chose has, let's put this white behind it, has a Christmas ornament behind it. And so that was the one that I chose, and then using the welding technique, I made a backer for this because I wanted to make a shaker tablet, or a shaker tag. And so to prep this, to prepare for the video, I want to show you, I made a dozen of these tags. So I took 2-inch squares of that plastic, which of course you can't see because it's clear, but I took 2-inch squares of the plastic, and I took a little piece of that glitter tape, and I picked up just one tab, and I held it behind the place where the ornament topper would go, and I held it there and put it on one piece of plastic. Now this is a hint for when you're making multiples, rather than measuring it every single time, because of course it's backwards and so it won't stick to this. So rather than measuring it every single time, what I did is I then took my my glitter tape and I cut little strips off, and I used one as a pattern, and then every time I grabbed another piece, I just set another piece of the 2-inch square plastic on there, and then I put a little piece of tape right over the same spot. So that way I could get through it relatively quickly. So that was a big help. Then on the back side, to glue this down, what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to pull out my glossy accents and I'm going to put a thin layer. Now, I don't want it to seep into my plastic if possible, even though I know that it will dry clear. And it's really important to me that I go over this little spot between the top of the ornament and the ornament itself, because I really want that plastic to adhere well. It doesn't take a lot of glue, and I put it really thin because if it gets glumpy, that's where you're going to have that seepage coming through. And so then we'll take this and we'll set that right over the top where that, so that the glitter tape is covering that ornament topper. Now I see that I'm going to have some seepage through. It's not a huge deal. I can clean some of it up. It does dry clear, but I really was trying to avoid that. One thing that I do when I have something like that is I'll pull a stick pin that I keep on my desk, and I'll try to push some of it back while it's still wet and kind of clean it up while it's still wet. Now I'm going to set this one aside because I don't want to really work with it while it is drying. I want to give it time to kind of get dry so it doesn't slip and slide while I'm working on it and it doesn't make a big mess. So let me clean off that glue that came over, and I have another tag that is prepped and ready to go. Just set my glossy accents aside, and we will pull out the other tag. So you see this one here, and it's all ready to go. It's the plastic's there. You can see the glitter shining through. So now we're ready to make our shaker. So I pre-cut the different pieces that I needed, and this was a tip that I learned from watching Christina Warner. I took my foam tape, and this is the foam tape that I use. Now for the shaker box part, which is what we're going to work on first, I just kind of cut down the middle because I have very little space here to work with, and I didn't even want half of it. But what I did is I took this and I trimmed down the middle, cut it in half, and then I folded it over on itself like this. Now one thing that was an unintended consequence of this is when you fold it over on itself, you know, on the first couple that I did, I was picking and trying to get the paper backing off, but once it sits for a while, when it's folded over, that paper backing starts to separate on its own, so it makes it really simple to work with. So then what I have here is basically a thin strip, but by removing all of the paper, and again I learned this from Christina and it was a great tip, it makes it really easy to press down and go around my circle. So I was really happy to learn that before I made this shaker card or shaker tag. So again, this is a pretty small space, so you're not working with a whole lot of room. So, and you don't want that foam tape to be showing if at all possible. Now, I will tell you that on the edges of this, the foam tape is showing on the finished tags, and I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do about that yet. I may come back at the end of the video and show you if I decide how I'm going to take care of that. But basically you want that to meet because you don't want your glitter and stuff to get through, and I almost didn't make it meet. In fact, I'm a little bit nervous about it, so I'm going to cut another piece and kind of wedge it in there because I definitely do not want my glitter all over on the outside. Okay, now with this little piece that I have left, It fits perfectly right up here. Now, in some of them, they were a little bit too long, and that was okay because I put them in the corners. Okay, then I took other pieces of the tape, and this time I just cut them into strips and folded them in half because I did want them to be a little bit wider. Now, because that one is a little bit short, I'm going to cut a little strip here and fold it in half because I need something down in those corners to hold those corners as well. So, and the reason I'm folding these in half is because if I don't fold them in half, they will not match up. And so they will be, it won't be as tall everywhere else that the card is as what it is around my shaker window. So I am just putting these last pieces on, and again just making sure I don't really need all this foam tape necessarily to hold it together, but if you have big gaps of without foam tape, then your cardboard or your cardstock pieces are going to smash together, and you really don't want that either. So again, I am just separating the backing from it, and I don't know what brand of foam tape I'm using here. I don't recall. I've had it for quite some time. It may be close to my heart, it may not, I don't know. But I will tell you, it is super, super sticky. And anytime you touch it, if you don't touch it just right, it will stick to it. And I have nearly made quite a mess a few times in this project. So again, let's get that last piece off. There it goes. And put that in the middle. Okay. So now what? This is something that I learned the hard way. On the very first one of these that I did, I just used the sequins. The problem with just using the sequins is, actually there are two problems. First of all, I think the first problem is static will get in there and they don't like to shake. And then the other problem is because this foam tape is so, you want to be really careful with this part, but because that foam tape is so sticky, the sequins stick to it as well. And then you get in there and on the first one, I'll show it to you at the end of the video, it wouldn't shake. So I have some gold, some clear, and some pink, and those are really bright pink, but because they're actually sheer and they're a bit iridescent, it actually shows up really well. And actually it shows up well, but it doesn't look like that bold in your face pink against the soft pink. Now, I don't know why I even bothered to put the clear ones in there other than just for more stuff, I guess. And I think I put a little bit more glitter in than what I have been, so this one's going to actually be a little bit more full, and I hope we don't lose our sequins in it. And this is where you want to be really careful because you don't want your glitter or your sequins to be on top of your foam, or it won't stick together. So now I'm carefully setting my back on it, and then I'm going to press it down, and I'm paying really close attention right around that window of the shaker card. So that, I mean, all of it needs to be adhered, but that's really important because when I turn it over, you want to be able to see it shake, just like that. So, and I'll show you the first one that I did without the glitter, and it's pretty, but there's not a whole lot of shaking movement because the sequins have all adhered to the foam, whereas these, there's plenty of room. I put a little bit more, but that glitter just kind of helps it move a little bit better. So to finish it off, I have I've already pre-cut my ribbon, and I went into 3 layers. Now I had this really pretty, and I'll show you the different ones that I had. I had this really pretty feather-like fiber, and I had it in white as well, and I used up all the white I had. And then I had some other pieces of white that I will show you that I substituted as well. What I may go back and do, whoops, let's try that again. I must have cut that pink one a little bit shorter this time. What I may go back and do is find some washi or something and put it around the edges. I just haven't decided how important that is to me. Do I really need to finish off the edges, or am I going to let it go? If I finish off the edges, I will have to, of course, untie where I have put my ribbons through on all of them. And it is a bit, those make nice big holes, but getting all 3 layers can be a little bit tricky, but there it is. So there is one shaker card. Let me show you one of the white ones, and I really have to tell you, these are my favorite, with the white fibers shaking in there like that. I had some that looked more almost like nubby yarn, and that worked out really well as well. And then I had some that had gold, let's see, had some gold fibers going through it. It also is pretty. I like the featheriness of this extra fiber, but that is also pretty. So there we have those tags, and I really think I'm just going to leave them. Yes, you can see, if you look at the side, you can see the foam on it, but I don't want to take away from the fibers and the sequins and the glitter, and I'm afraid if I go around the edge with washi, I will lose that. So for now, I'm just going to leave it. So thanks so much for stopping by today, and remember, take some time to enjoy the little things. Have a great day. Bye.